we are live. I'm Anna Franzen. I'm here with Reina Pomeroy, who is a life and biz success coach and someone I had the honor to meet. This is still July, so this month, and I'm so excited to hear her speak about some of the things that make her special, including social glue, which I personally have been influenced by. And she's also going to encourage you to up-level with your special spark. So welcome, Reina. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I can't wait to actually interview you for a second, too, about your social glue story. But yeah, I'm so excited to be here. I'm so honored that you asked me. And I think the cool people of July, I'm like friends with many of them. So it's just really fun to be amongst those people, too. And so thanks for watching if you're live.
Yes, thank you. And feel free to say hello. We'll be able to see your comments, hopefully.
Do I get to see the comments, too?
I'm not sure. Well, the one bummer is that I think if, like, I shared this to my group, and I think if people comment in my group, I don't know if I'll be able to see them, but if they comment on my business page.
Oh, I see.
The quirks of July.
Trickery. All right. Well, thank you guys for watching. I'll definitely go back and check the comments, too, if I miss anything. So
yes, we're both comment returners.
Yes, for sure.
So tell us, if my audience has never met you before, like tell us a little bit about you, what you do, who you work with, and of course, I'll link to your amazing Facebook group, which is also a heart-centered Facebook group. But yeah, tell us about you.
Sure. So I am Reina Pomeroy, and I run Reina & Co., which is the life and business success coaching practice. We typically serve people who are very creative, a lot of graphic designers, photographers, artists, a couple other people too, like editors, writers, that sort of thing. People who are really creating something from their own skills and talents and putting it out into the world. So I take people who typically have a lot of big picture ideas. These are visionaries, have things popping up in their head constantly, and I help them focus on what's most important out of all of that so that we can figure out how to take action and have them become the go-to expert in their industry. So the whole point in all of this is that you have lots of ideas, trying to distill it down and then figure out what the plan is. And a lot of that can be mindset work, but a lot of it is also strategic and tactical as well. I also always forget the Creative Empire podcast. I'm also a co-host of the Creative Empire podcast, where we interview a lot of creatives and incredible people there. And it's been such a cool way to connect with creative entrepreneurs.
I love that. I love, too, how you said, like bringing people from all those brilliant ideas to a specific plan, because I feel like that's where people actually make an impact, right, and start seeing and getting traction. So I love that you bring in that component with your coaching.
Hi, guys. Thanks so much for popping on. I have some friends in here. This is really exciting. Hi, Kristen. You guys, it's so funny because it just pops up with your name and then I can't see anything else. So if anyone else is here, give me more comments so that I can see you. So it's been a really fun process to be able to, my background is so varied in that I am very linear, but I also have a creative streak. And so it's like a nice meshing of me being able to do the project management type and also my coaching hat all at the same time, pulling out what I call the human highlighter and just like figuring out what is the most important thing as people are talking, as people are communicating and making it kind of stick. So that's my secret sauce.
Beautiful. So let's dive right in, because like a question popped into my mind right as you were saying that. So in this interview series, as you know, we've been talking about helping like my tribe, helping our audiences to know like what makes me different. And I love, before we even started this interview, you mentioned something that was so powerful, that a lot of that is when we give ourselves permission to not see competition. So what would you, like, is that a piece of it, or what would you say is the key piece if someone has to go and can only make the first 5 minutes of the interview? Like, what is the key piece when it comes to really unlocking and coming alive and displaying for the world what makes them special?
Yeah, so the one thing I want everybody to be able to take away from this is there's no competition. There is competition, but there's no competition. And we'll talk about how you can actually make that happen for yourself. But I think if you can only take one thing away, that would be it. There's so much opportunity out there, so many connections to be made, so many, gigs to get. And I don't think that there's any point in fretting about why your time isn't here yet. it takes a lot of introspection. It takes a lot of visioning. It takes a lot of strategy and work to get to that place. But if you get to the mindset space of, I know that I have a heart-centered Biz Bosses Facebook community and Anna has a heart-centered entrepreneur community, and we don't compete against each other. Even if we have a very similar name, I don't think she stole it from me. I don't think I stole it from her. It just came from a really organic place. And if we can really lean into that and say, how can I collaborate with this person to understand what better, how better I can serve my community because I know Anna's out there, you know, that kind of thing is what I think makes me different in my space. And I also think that it helps me to unpackage what makes people special about them and figuring out what their individual secret sauce looks like.
I love that. So tell me, like, let's say someone is scrolling through their Facebook feed and they just happened upon this interview, but they're in a mindset, I know I've gotten here before, just asking for a friend right now. They're scrolling through and they're in the middle of like, oh, look at that person, they're doing it. Like, let's say they're a designer, right? And they're like, oh my gosh, that designer just put that out. And then, oh my gosh, I don't have my act together. Like, what is something really practical that someone can do if they're in the middle of that funk and feeling like I'm just one sunflower among a whole field of sunflowers and I'm nothing special?
Yeah, I think, first of all, acknowledge how far you have come. Right? Like, gratitude is like the biggest thing that we can do when we're feeling so much lack in our lives. And it's like such a woo-woo thing to talk about, but honestly, that is the first thing we can do to fill our cups a little bit. And then the second thing I would say is stepping back from the tactics, stepping back from the Facebooks, the Instagram, all of that, the tactical stuff in our businesses, and looking at our vision. Because when we don't have our sights set on that vision, it's so hard to stay on a path because you don't know what the path is, right? You're like jumping from path A to path B to path C because you're doing things reactively, reacting to the industry. Whereas if you were able to step back and say, okay, this is my goal. This is what I want the end result to look like. This is what success looks like for me. Then you're able to say, okay, this strategy is what I need to execute on. These are the tactics I need to, you know, take action on to get to that strategy, right? And so vision, strategy, tactics. Mm-hmm. And that vision also includes the values, your personal core values, your family values, your business values. What does that look like? And if you don't have a sense of what that is, you're always going to lose out because you're going to be like, squirrel, you know, trying to figure out what it is that other people are doing and trying to do more of that. Where I would say that it's good to kind of get off track sometimes is when you listen to your audience. You create better products, you create better things if you listen to people rather than kind of like trailblazing without listening to anybody. And so that would be my only exception to kind of breaking that strategy that you might have.
I love that. So really getting grounded, you know, without listening to all the voices, but also listening to the voice of our audience, which I totally agree is super important. Yeah. I love too that you included the component of in our vision and in our why, thinking through like, what does success look like for me? And that's something that I've really been discovering lately. And well, something that I've always kind of known, but like more unashamedly been embracing, right? Is like, this is what success looks like for me. Like these are the ways that success has already arrived, and I don't have to go after XYZ just because of, I don't know, like some reason that I feel like I need to catch up or, So I love that you include that as a part of the foundation.
Yeah. I mean, I have this thing, I don't know what it's called, like those little boards or whatever, that says work at your own pace. And it's just me telling myself that it's okay that I'm not, 10 years down the road like somebody else is. I'm 2.5 years into my business and I'm happy being here. And what can I celebrate by going at the pace that I'm going? I'm not burnt out. I'm happy with my business. I love the people that I'm connecting with. Yes, of course, there's like plenty of things that I could be striving for, and I am striving for. But this season of my business, this season of my life is super good, and I'm willing to receive it the way that it is right now.
Yes. Okay. I don't know how to say your name. Alberti?
It's Alpi. Yeah.
Oh, Ali says, I definitely had to take a step back from all the strategy and teachings on the internet to start actually taking action in a way that speaks to my spirit. Oh my
Preach,
gosh.
girl.
I love
I tell
that.
people all the time to stop listening to my podcast. I mean, yes, I want you to listen to my podcast, but I want you to stop listening.
I love that you say that.
I mean, it's kind of true. Like, if you're going to constantly listen and not take action, it just breaks my heart. Like, I want you to step back, look at what's most important for you, and actually do that thing. So
I love that. And I think that's, I mean, just like in full transparency, like I think for me and my heart, like that's such a barometer of like when I'm feeling insecure too, because like, I mean, so I started my business about a year ago, and I would say like for the last like 8 months, like I haven't really like downloaded a ton of freebies and like, but like about 2 months ago, I went through this phase where like in 1 week, I downloaded probably like 12 freebies, right? And I think that was a sign for me of like, Anna, like why are you looking externally? You know, like it was like a good like checkpoint for me to say, okay, what's going on? And then like, how can I like dive back in and feel confident? And as Ali says, like Albie, how do I say it?
Albie, yeah.
Albie says, diving back in and like taking action in a way that speaks to your spirit.
Totally. I would say too, something that I always go back to, and we can talk about goal setting or whatever you want to talk about, but one of the things I say is like in your strategies, right? Like we talked about vision, strategy, and the tactics. When you go back to your strategy, if you know what the focus, I know that I need to learn about, I don't know, Facebook ads, or I need to learn about, I don't know, Be Live TV, whatever that is. In order to get to the actual execution of something, sometimes we do have to learn about something, right? And like, if you're setting up a podcast for the first time, you know that you want to have a podcast, but you've never done that before, so you have to learn how to do it. That doesn't mean that you can't learn anything. I think it's the whole point is that learn something that's pointed and focused on the thing that will take you to the next big thing. I'm sick of people like consuming. It's like ingesting information, but never digesting that information. So it just kind of sits there and creates more overwhelm.
So powerful. I think that's such a powerful nugget. And I think too, like when we think through investments, it's that same way, right? Like totally. Investments are so important. So like whether we're investing our time in learning or investing our money in something, it's just about first searching like, okay, what do I need most? And how can I find a match for that? Instead of like going, at least for me, like going to the grocery store when I'm hungry. And then I'm like, here's all these things. But like, okay, that's not what I came for. I came for chicken and veggies, right?
I usually leave with like 25 things that I didn't need and forget the one thing that I went for. And it's a mess. Yeah.
Yes. Beautiful. So one thing I want to make sure that I make time to ask you about too, that is one of your special sparks, is social glue. And about, I don't remember when it was, but a few months ago, I downloaded that freebie of yours. It was from a good place, I promise. It was from like a good mental place. And I'll let you unpack the concept. But after I downloaded it, I connected, it like gave me the inspiration to connect with 3 peers. And I like literally did that right after I downloaded your freebie. And I feel like it was such a beautiful catalyst for action. Yeah. So tell us about it.
Sure. So you can download the same exact freebie that Anna is talking about at reinaandco.com /social glue. And it's glue like Elmer's glue. People are like, what's social glue? It's social glue. Anyway, so the whole concept is around the fact that whether you're an introvert, an extrovert, sometimes it's lonely on the online world. And we want to create meaningful ways of connecting, intentional ways of connecting with humans. And also it creates a bigger web of connections. And so I'm guessing that, Anna, for you, as you're doing more of these interviews, social gluing has become easier. You're having more coffee chats or having connection points that seem not as scary. And at the very beginning, when you're reaching out to the first person, it's terrifying because you're like, who am I to reach out to this person? And I don't know what's special about me. But really, when I talk about social glue, it's really around the concept of you have something to offer, you have something to gain, and we're just trying to create connections, and we're not trying to sell anything. I think the sales, the quote unquote benefits from these relationships come from a reciprocal sort of relational method in the future, and it's not a transactional conversation. So it's not like, what can I do for you? What can you do for me kind of a thing, but it's more about connection and hopefully leveraging those relationships in the future.
I love that. It's almost like, how can we grow together, right? Like, even if we're at like different points in our businesses, like how can we both continue to move forward without burnout, just encouraging each other and growing and being generous, even if like it looks like different things for each of us.
Exactly. So at the very beginning, I had no idea this was a thing. Like, I just did it because I'm an extrovert and I felt super lonely online. And so I literally would be in Facebook groups like, hey, I'm not selling anything, but I loved what you said about blah. I'd love to have a virtual Skype chat. Would you be interested? And over the course of the 45 of these, which is like a whole heck of a lot. And I don't really recommend it for everybody, but like, if you're an introvert, you're like, I want to maybe do one. It's okay. Start with one. But I would say, like, if you have to set yourself a goal for like doing a CEO dare, and this is scary, then go and do that as your dare. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like it started out as a mistake or just like a Reina-ism, and now it's become kind of a strategy and a methodology for creating really meaningful interactions. Some things that have come from this for myself and for some of my clients or people that I teach about this, I've gotten speaking gigs out of it. I have gotten really cool collaborations from it. I got to teach in front of almost 2,000 people in a webinar because of it. And just really about pouring into one another, really supporting each other, and kind of growing from there, doing checkpoints, every so often, so that you're staying in contact and you're able to, pour into one another, like I said.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that. And I love that you talk about checkpoints too, because one of the things that I have is like a little client connection tracker, and I encourage like my clients to like stay in contact with potential clients, but I actually have an extra tab on mine. That's just like connections, like not potential clients, but just people that I want to stay in contact with, but that I want to remember, right? Like, that I want to go back and be intentional about connecting.
Hi, Jocelyn. Thanks for being here. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I feel like is so powerful about the social glue. I mean, I want to ask you too, like, what has been, like, who did you reach out to and how did it feel while you were doing it?
Yeah, it was great. The three people that I first reached out to were actually just like, I would say like, I mean, not that like all of us are like ahead or behind, but like peers, like people that I felt like we had interacted, we knew each other from the online space, but we never met face to face. And so I was like, hey, let's meet face to face.
I love that. I love that so much. I think too, I've connected with people who are like influencers, peers, and people who are my audience. I don't think it's anything about like being ahead or being behind, but like social glue works for all of them. People who I thought would never in a million years reach back out to me have said, yeah, sure, let's have a coffee chat. It really is about the mindset of the person who you're reaching out to and saying like, how can you add value to them? So the template that I have really allows people to reach out in a way that feels not so icky, not so like pushy. And I think just says outright that you're not trying to sell them anything in a way that's not like, I'm not trying to sell you anything. I just want to connect. But yeah, when you're reaching out to influencers, sometimes it has to be a little bit more compelling than I just want to connect because they get so many of these invitations. So we just have to think about how to do that more effectively.
Yes, totally. I love that that this freebie is so clear. I feel like it's really simple and easy to apply, which totally aligns with your framework of sorting through all the ideas and taking action.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's just one of the things that I love talking about, and I think is a way that we can all, whether we have a list or not, or money to run Facebook ads or nothing at all, right? Like we do have time, whether that quantity is super small or much bigger, we do have time to pour into one another, and we just have to make a concerted effort.
I love that. I have two questions for you. So when we're thinking about like people that are at that stage of their business where they're looking to like distinguish or differentiate themselves, my two questions are, maybe you give different advice, maybe you give the same advice, but when you think about someone that's at the very, very start of their business and they like especially when they come into the online space.
Yep.
And they're like, oh my gosh, what makes me different versus someone that's maybe been in it for a while, maybe someone that's more like me, right? And learning again, like, how do I distinguish myself?
Totally.
What advice would you give for these two people? Is it the same advice or is it different?
It's sort of the same and different at the same time. It's so not helpful. So
I asked you two questions at once.
I'm like, it's sort of the same, sort of different. I think it goes back to, have you done the work about your visioning, strategy, and tactics? Like, if you haven't done that, doesn't matter if you're 5 years in, 2 days in, whatever, you have to do that work first. And sometimes it takes a while to know what you want to be known for. So it's okay to stumble. It's okay to just sorry, I have a hair. It's okay to start where you are. And I think I want to encourage people to not make themselves wrong at the beginning, because there's plenty of things that I did that were like, what the heck was I thinking? But at the same time, those mistakes were the things that I needed to do in order to get to where I was. Know that these aren't my target people that I'm trying to talk to, or I need to speak to them in a certain way, or whatever. And these are the messages that are going to resonate. So nothing is wrong, right? And I want people to understand that, whether they're 2 years in or like a day into their business. One thing I would say is your message starts with you. Your message starts with your experience, your expertise, and like maybe you don't have expertise, and that's okay too, but you have to develop it over time. That's going to be like the biggest thing though is, I think often we want other people to tell us what our secret sauce is, and we have to do that work ourselves. It's great to have mirrors who can show us and highlight for us what's great, but we have to distill that information. We have to be the filter. We have to be the person that processes that information and take it to the next level. So if you're working with a coach, that person might be able to hold a mirror up to you and say, actually, these are the parts that I see you really, really shining, and I think you should leverage this. Totally. You should totally use that information. But I think if you don't have that, you need to step back and say, okay, what does make me really unique? Maybe you're a designer and you worked in, I don't know, a particular department that had this particular, I don't know, I'm like making stuff up that doesn't even make sense. Let's come up with a real example. Let's see. So maybe you worked in an agency and you wrote copy, and you wrote for sports, I don't know, magazines or something like that. And you can take that information, but bring it into a different industry and say, this is why I'm unique, because I've done this type of work. It's fast paced and I know what quick turnarounds look like, and blah, 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 right? Like, you can use those real world skills and ways of being into your business. And so those things distilled down can create a secret sauce, right? It can create a way, a modality, not just what you offer, but how you offer it, your practical sort of process, your signature process for your business, whether it's a product or a service. Yeah, does that kind of help? I feel like
it totally does. No, it totally does. And tell us for you, like, what that has looked like personally. Like, as you think about, I love that you gave people permission to let it be messy at the start, right? But to still encourage them to like really refine their message. So how has your message morphed over time, and what would you say that it is today?
Yeah, so this is a great question, and I struggled with it for a while because I feel like I can talk about all kinds of things, and I was like, I don't know, how can I talk about all the things but not talk about all the things and be known for very specific things? And so for me, it's been a process. I've written lots and lots of lists, but what it's come down to recently is what I call the verticals, and how I organize my content, and how I like to talk about the things that I want to be known for. So this is a resource that has been going really well. It's a fun opt-in. So if you guys want to check it out, it's reinaandco.com/verticals. And verticals in newspapers are different, sections. So like business or sports or, I don't know, the comics section. What is that? Entertainment? Whatever. So like different sections in the newspaper. And so that's kind of what we're going for with your business. What are the different sections that are housed under the Reina & Co brand or your brand? And what are the things that you really want to be known for under those things? And so the way that I describe verticals is it's like the simplest organizing mechanism for funnels. It's the simplest organizing mechanism for the way you talk about something. So, for example, one of the verticals in my verticals chart, it's like a grid. and mine is visibility. There's so many people who are visibility experts, right? But I know that because I talk about visibility through the lens of the verticals, it makes me super unique. I have a tool that I can share with people that helps them really clearly organize and define what their business is about. And one of the things that makes that one special too is that there's a philosophy section. So like you can detail out like what is it about this particular vertical that is unique as compared to somebody else's. So when I talk about visibility, no one else is going to talk about it the same way. No one's going to talk about it through the lens of verticals. No one's going to talk about it from the standpoint of, I don't think you're ready to pitch yet. And here's how you can make it even more compelling for somebody. And so, yeah, I just wanted to share that this is why I believe that there's no competition. When you do this work of creating your own verticals, whether you're just filling it out and you're like guessing, you're like, I don't know, maybe this is my vertical, or you're like Anna and you're like a couple years in, you have a lot of content to your name and you're like trying to organize, okay, what is my vertical here? That's totally fine. I think that when you get whether you're at the beginning or sort of in the middle of it, when you can sort of leverage what you already have in your brain and already have in your content Rolodex, you can just organize it and put it into this format and make it more yours so that you can clearly define, okay, this is my message versus this is not my message. And I think we get more confident as we know what our content is supposed to look like.
So brilliant. And I love that you bring that up because I think it loops back around towards what you said in the beginning, which like there's no competition, right? Because if you look at your verticals at the core, you're right. It's like what a lot of other people talk about. But when you gave yourself permission to say, no, I do want to talk about visibility, just how do I talk about it differently? Then it just helps you feel so much more confident, right? Because you're like, I'm talking about this in a completely different way and in a way that's going to resonate with someone differently than the way someone else might talk about visibility, right? Like someone may have been trying to be visible for a long time and it's not until they see your specific framework that they're like, oh, that makes so much more sense and I finally feel clear in my visibility.
Perfect. Yeah. And I think that what makes this system unique is that it, first of all, distills down what a funnel should look like, right? It's not that complicated, and we often make it so much more complicated than it needs to be. And so if you need to just see what it looks like, just do that exercise. And also, it gives so much permission to not fill in everything. We often feel like, okay, I need to have these 4 funnels set up, and all of the boxes need to be filled out. And actually, no, I'd rather you do one. Like if you're just starting out and you have a signature service, I would rather you just get really, really good at that and find a way to get people into that funnel really quickly. And also defining what those philosophies are, that's what makes your secret sauce, right? And so whether it sounds similar or here's kind of like my secret sauce around this is that I want people to name their things. I want them to name them kind of like I did with social glue, kind of like what I did with verticals. I want you to have a coinable term so that you can go and be like, okay, who is it that talks about, I don't know, connections? And people think, oh, Reina talks about social glue. Obviously, I need to bring her on or whatever. Like I might not be the go-to person on that for somebody, but hopefully I do become that, right? Or I don't know, what is the thing that you want to be known for? And you have to be the person to kind of figure that out for yourself, right? So name your thing and then trademark it.
Yes, such a good name. And I think too, like thinking about something that's like hashtagable, right? Like even though like I'm not super visible on Instagram, like I have a few things that like I hashtag just because I think for me it's like accountability to name it, right? Like what am I calling this in like 2 words or in 3 words? That's like a coin phrase. So I think thinking through things in little nuggets like that can be so helpful.
Yeah, I mean, this is like branding 101, but for your content, which is super unique, which is, I think, something that not a lot of people talk about. People will talk about, you know, oh, how do I do my logo or whatever, but really it comes down to the branding of your programs, branding of the concepts that you create. And it's the thing that makes people become thought leaders, right? People recognize other people's work because of the names. It's not necessarily always because of the concepts.
So good. I feel like that was like a special spark nugget. Golden nuggets. We'll have to follow up on that in the group tomorrow. Okay, so as we bring it in for landing, I do have one more question for you. And it's actually one of the questions from the spark chart, which helps people kind of dive in and unleash their special spark. But what is a compliment that you often receive and ignore?
Oh man, what's
and it might be something that you did more at the start of your business, but now you embrace it. But what's something that's so innate to you that you're like, this isn't special?
Oh, totally. All the time. I feel like people tell me, oh, you're like the Angie's List of the online business world.
Wow.
Right? Like, you know so many people, you connect so many people. Whenever I need to hire somebody, I know exactly who I'm going to. I'm like, I can't create a service out of that. I would leverage that. But I think that's something that people say all the time to me. If anyone knows how to monetize that, let me know. But I haven't found a way.
Well, it's like
and I think it's just
glue thing, right?
I mean, that's totally social glue, but like, I can't really make that a service because I just love people and I want to connect them to other resources. So, yeah, I don't know. But yeah, I think it's just about, when I get on these calls, I have learned about their kids. I've learned about people's families or like what their needs are in their businesses and where they are, whatever. And I like to just be able to say, oh, I know somebody who can help you with that. Or I know that this person's doing a challenge on that. I think it'd be really cool to, try that out or whatever. I'm just like trying to magnet people together.
Yes. And I think really that's probably a testament to why your business has grown so well so quickly. Because it's like two things: the lack of competition, the lack of it's just that abundant mindset, right? It's not the scarcity of like, I have to hoard the resources, right? You're like, I can abundantly connect people. And then also that social glue of like, I'm going to take the initiative to connect with people and trust that that's going to move my business forward.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping. I feel like it's been going well so far. And whenever there has been a time when people have needed something, I'm willing to step up. And I think that not enough people do that. Not to toot my own horn, but I think that there's room to try to respond to emails or respond to DMs on Instagram or whatever, because I've been there. I've reached out and said, I don't know what I'm doing. Can you please help me? Or like, can you connect me to somebody? Or maybe it wasn't like the best well-phrased email. I was sending it back in the day, but people responded to me too. And I feel like that it's my duty to do that now.
I love that. So generous. Albie says, I always say there's room for everyone, which I totally agree with.
Yeah. Albie's great. Albie's one of my biggest cheerleaders. Like, she was like, I'm on this. Let's go.
I love it so much. And thank you, Kristen. Thank you, Jocelyn. Thank you, Megan, for being here with us.
So much.
Hopefully, feel free to, if you're watching this later, I think Facebook, for some reason, when I shared this in my group this morning, flagged it as spam, and I couldn't unflag it. I know. I'm like, I've done this a million times. But if you are watching the replay, feel free to post any questions for myself or Reina around this. And I'm going to post all the links that Reina talked about. Social Glue, the link to her Heart-Centered Biz Bosses, and the verticals. And anything else I missed?
I think that those are the only two I mentioned.
So beautiful. Well, thank you so much for being here, Reina. Do you have any other closing thoughts or anything that I left out?
No, I think that's it. I really want people to think about why there is no competition for them. That's like my main takeaway here. I'd love for you to just think through what makes you so unique and special. And sometimes it takes journaling. Sometimes it takes listening to a friend and hearing like tough compliments from people, because sometimes it's hard to accept those things. But I want you to hear yourself, and I want you to hear them, and also listen to your audience. So thanks for having me.
Thank you, Reina. I so enjoyed you being here and sharing your heart and vision, just to see like women. Yeah, I almost see it as like you're inviting women to like become braver, to become more confident, and like lose sight of all the things that hold them back from that beautiful action.